Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we unpack all the financial jargon to find the real story. Get ready, because today we're diving into World Acceptance Corporation's proxy statement, and let me tell you, there are some interesting numbers and plans to talk about in this shareholder meeting invitation. It looks like World Acceptance Corporation is getting ready for its 2025 annual meeting of shareholders, happening on August 20th. This document is basically their newsletter to investors explaining what's going to be discussed and voted on. Think of it as the agenda and the justification for all their proposals. The main goal here is to get shareholders to vote. They're reminding everyone that your vote is super important, even if you can't make it to the meeting. They even provide a handy postage paid envelope, which is a nice touch to encourage returns. It's all about making sure they have enough shareholder participation for the meeting to count. Now, one of the big items on the agenda is electing directors. They've nominated 7 candidates, and they've even given us their biographies. This is where you get to see who's making the big decisions. They've helpfully provided details about their experience and what makes them qualified. For example, Ken R. Bramlett Jr. has been a director since 1993 and is currently the chairman. R. Chad Prashad, the president and CEO, is also for re-election. Scott J. Vasaluzzo, who is a managing member of an investment advisor, and Charles D. Way, a private investor with a long history with the company, are also on the list. These are the people guiding the company's strategy. Looking at the bios, you can see they're trying to highlight each nominee's strengths. For Mr. Bramlett, it's leadership, legal, risk management, finance, corporate governance, and general business experience. For Mr. Prashad, it's leadership, strategy, finance, industry expertise, and data analytics experience. It's a good mix of skills they believe are needed to run the company effectively. Beyond directors, they're also talking about corporate governance. This is all about how the company is run at the highest level, ensuring good practices and transparency. They mentioned their governance policy, code of business, conduct and ethics, and insider trading policy. These are all standard practices for public companies, aiming to keep everyone honest and accountable. The big part of corporate governance is how executives are compensated, and they've dedicated a significant portion of this document to that. We see the Compensation and Stock Option Committee, which is made up of independent directors, is responsible for this. They review salaries, bonuses, and equity awards to make sure they attract and keep talented executives while aligning their interests with shareholders. This is where things get really interesting for us analysts. Let's look at the 2025 summary compensation table. For R. Chad Prashad, the president and CEO, his total compensation in 2025 was a whopping $2,080. That's a big jump from the previous year. For contrast, John L. Counts Jr., the CFO and treasurer, 25, and D. Clinton Dyer, the chief branch operations officer, brought in treasury 29, and as an ASND 40, $14 Avon Wom 4s, and as and Dolly 4 also 33.44. It's also worth noting that a good chunk of their other compensation comes from things like company cars. For Mr. Prashad, the company car benefit alone was over $44,000 for the year. While these are perks, they're a small part of the overall picture compared to salary and stock awards. Now let's talk about equity awards. These are grants of company stock that are designed to motivate executives and align their interests with long-term shareholder value. For instance, R. Chad Prashad had restricted stock awards valued at over $1.4 million that were unvested at the end of fiscal year 2025. This means his compensation is heavily tied to the future performance of the company's stock. We also see amounts realized from vested stock. Mr. Prashad, for example, made over $4.5 million from vested stock in 2025. This shows how significant equity compensation can be, especially when the company performs well. Here's a fun one every year, the CEO pay ratio. In 2025, the ratio of the median employee's compensation to the CEO's compensation to the CEO's compensation was 53-1. This means the CEO earned 53 times more than the median employee. While this is a regulatory requirement, it gives a stark picture of the pay gap within the company. This pay versus performance table is crucial. It tries to show how the compensation actually paid to executives lines up with the company's financial performance. For 2025, the compensation actually paid for other executives was also negative. When you look at the company TSR column, you see the total shareholder return. For 2025, it was 2,000, huge increase. However, the negative compensation actually paid suggests that The stock award values actually decreased when calculated in a specific way for this report. This disconnect is something to keep an eye on. Is executive compensation truly tied to performance, or is it just a fancy accounting game? And then there's EPS, or earnings per share. For 2025, EPS was $16.30. This is a key number for many companies, and it's great to see it's positive and represents growth compared to past years. Let's not forget director compensation. Non-employee directors are compensated for their time and oversight. For 2025, directors like Ken R. Bramlett Jr. and Charles D. Way received over $225,000 each, a mix of cash retainers and stock awards. This compensation is designed to attract experienced individuals willing to take on the responsibilities of overseeing the company. And here's that advisory shareholder vote on executive pay, the Say on Pay proposal. They're asking shareholders to approve the compensation described. Even though it's non-binding, it's a way for shareholders to voice their opinion on the executive pay packages. Next up is Proposal 3, seeking approval for the 2025 Stock Incentive Plan. This is basically a new way for the company to grant stock options and other equity awards to employees and directors. They're looking to issue up to 400,000 shares under this new plan. They're emphasizing responsible practices like a minimum 1-year vesting period, and no repricing of options without shareholder approval. This section states the maximum number of shares under the plan is 400,000. This is a relatively small number compared to the company's outstanding shares, which is good. It suggests they're not overly diluting shareholder ownership with these grants. Finally, Proposal 4 asks shareholders to ratify the appointment of RSM US LLP as their independent auditor for the upcoming fiscal year. This is standard practice to ensure the company's financial statements are fairly presented. The Audit and Compliance Committee oversees this, and they've found RSM to be a reliable partner. Looking at the fees paid to RSM US LP, they spent almost $1.1 million in fiscal 2025. Most of that, about $995,000, was for the actual audit of financial statements. The rest was for audit-related services like looking into their employee benefit plans. It's a significant amount, but typical for a company of this size and regulatory scrutiny. Now for my take. World Acceptance Corporation seems to be navigating the current economic climate reasonably well, showing growth in EPS and a commitment to shareholder returns with buybacks. The director nominees bring a wealth of experience and the governance policies seem solid. However, the negative numbers in the compensation actually paid calculation for executives in the pay versus performance section are a bit of a red flag. It suggests that while they report certain compensation, the actual market value of some of those awards declined, making the reported figures look strange. Pay ratio is also quite high, which is common in many industries, but still something to note.
The new 2025 stock incentive plan with a limited share pool and good governance features is a positive, showing a focus on long-term alignment without excessive dilution. The company's strong TSR performance in 2025 stock incentive plan with a limited share pool and good governance features is a positive, showing a focus on long-term alignment without excessive dilution.
That's our deep dive into World Acceptance Corporation's proxy statement. What are your thoughts on their executive compensation and the proposed stock plan? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, give this video a like and subscribe to Corporate Decoder for more insights. Also, make sure to join our Discord community, linked in the description, for even more discussions on these filings. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.